Episode of College Coaches Corner here with LGR. We're back in Region 23, back in Mississippi, with head coach Scotty Fletcher from Pearl River Community College. Coach, how you doing during all this virus madness?
Better than I deserve, Coach, and I'd be remiss if I didn't stop and say thank you for reaching out and for the coverage of our program and our conference and our region. So I just, before we get started today, I definitely would like to say a special thanks. And then also just for what you do for those girls in Louisiana, those high school coaches, those student athletes. It makes it a lot easier on our end, to be able to go to a website that you don't have to spend, when budgets are strapped. So like I said, I would like to first and foremost just brag on you and your service and just how good of a job you guys are doing. And it makes access, for a neighboring state that's limited with out-of-state resources. And, only having 3 out-of-state players on our roster, this has been something that's been very handy. And, also with your background in college basketball and basketball in general, helps, gives a true identity of what type of players we're looking for, skill set. And that's very important, as you know, because the age of recruiting has changed from the newspaper days.
For sure, man. For sure. I appreciate that. I enjoy it a lot, or I wouldn't be doing it, So I've had a lot of compliments and everything doing all this. I've learned a lot from everyone, and it's been great just kind of grow and meet new people, man, people like yourself. And with that, I was looking over your bio kind of before we jumped on. You and I talked a few times on the phone. But one thing that stood out for me from your bio was, your faith. If you want to speak about that with FCA and how you kind of ran that whenever you were in school yourself, some of your last couple stops. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. That's something, everybody, every coach, every player, every person has their own journey. I've been blessed to be around, great people in my life. I had great parents, great coaches, teachers, people that invested in me and saw, something in me. So a little bit about my story that kind of lead to that faith is both my parents lost both of them at a young age. I was at basketball camp actually at USM, and my mom had just watched me play. I was 13 and heading home. She got in a car wreck and didn't make it. And my god cousin was with her, and he survived. And Neil Reed, kind of a Louisiana connection, Neil Reed had transferred from Indiana to Southern Miss and was sitting out. And so Neil Reed had kind of just taken a liking to me. And so, of course, I, wanted to be, like Neil, and so spent some time with him during camp. And he spent some time shooting with me and teaching me this and teaching me that. So we spent a little time together. And, man, actually, he took me home that night of camp, the last night of camp, when my mom passed. And then, so man, when I left camp, just basketball was kind of my sport. All my uncles played baseball. My Uncle Rick made it all the way to AAA with the New York Mets. But basketball was kind of my passion. And then when I was 17, my dad, he passed away. So I didn't really grow up in church, but I moved in with my uncle and my aunt. Kind of bounced around from 7th grade to 10th grade. I was at a different school each year, and then finished at Petal, and right outside of Hattiesburg. And my aunt and uncle there, man, they were in church every time the doors were open. And so in high school, that's when my faith really got serious. So entered college, man, and just was so passionate, about the game of basketball, and got into coaching and just knew that obviously there was a higher power that had blessed me with a lot of things looking back on my life. Just my passion for basketball, I feel like allowed me to get through those adverse times and kind of make me who I am today. First person in my family to finish college, and went on to get my master's. And I tell people all the time, it wasn't that I was real smart, it's just I followed directions and was very respectful. So make a long story short, bounced around in coaching. Right after I got done playing at William Carey, I went to Ole Miss as a GA, and went back to William Carey, and went to Jacksonville State from there on the men's side my first 8 years. And when I came back to Cary, the president, a guy by the name of Mitch Williams, started FCA in the Pine Belt. And so I was the campus leader for William Carey, which is a private university, in the same conference, as at the time we were with Xavier and Dillard and all those in the old Gulf Coast Conference. But now it's the Southern States Conference, Loyola and all them. So, man, had just a great opportunity. And we have a very, very active FCA here. And, man, it's just, coaching, obviously, you get a chance to impact and change lives. And like I said earlier, those coaches that invested in me at a young age definitely changed my life and had a major impact. And so it's just an opportunity to give back. And I'm very appreciative of FCA. I'm still very active with FCA and support it any way we can. Our president here does a phenomenal job of supporting FCA as well. So it's like I tell everybody, one thing about Faith and FCA to me is it's an accountability partner. And it's something that we all need, and man, it's just it's been very rewarding.
That's awesome. And I think, as coaches, we always try to use our platform, and we don't really realize how much of an impact we can have on kids. And like you said, Faith and everything else like that kind of puts it all into perspective wholeheartedly, rather quickly, for sure. Moving along, man, to some basketball questions. A tough question I like to ask everybody. I think you're on your 5th year, finished up your 5th year at Pearl River. What is or who was the first coach you feel like outcoached you in a game?
Let's see. Man, you may laugh at me, but probably everybody. But I tell you, man, I have a lot, and I'm not being open-ended right here, not trying to avoid answering your question, but man, you just learn so much as a young coach. And I can remember being an assistant and being so eager to be a head coach. And, I just, and got some experience at William Carey. We started a JV men's team. So we played all the junior colleges. And we had some success in a few games. And obviously we took our whoopings. But I thought that taught me a lot, but when I got down here, the girls' game obviously is just a different game. It's played below the rim, and that's no disrespect, but I think every coach would tell you that. So the small details, that you can get away with by coaching on the men's side, you can't get away with those on the women's side. And there's a lot of great, talented, just athletic women basketball players, but at the end of the day, tipping balls in above the rim is just not in our sport. So that attention to detail screening is something that's very important. But I really, and I mean this, Coach, I have a lot of respect for every one of our coaches in our division and on our schedule, because every coach has a DNA. And as a coach, you want your players to take on your personality. You know what I'm saying? If you're an aggressive coach, or, you just don't back down, the underdog, whatever your DNA makeup may be. And that from your experience as well as now, it's just, so that's something that, every coach that we play against, I feel like those players are a reflection of that coach. And, some coaches are very meticulous on, cuts on offense, and some are very aggressive on defense. So I don't know if I answered that the correct way, but I would just say, and I really mean this, my first year, I learned so much, and I went back and watched so much film on what other teams were doing with their talent level. And I feel like one thing I do every year is at the end of the year, how you have end of the year evaluations with your players and your assistant coaches. Well, I write an end of the year evaluation on myself, and I'm probably a little bit too tough on myself, but I feel like that's also another avenue to grow. And I also visit with my assistant coaches in that regards, because, it's as a head coach, you're always solving your players' problems or helping them, have a solution that sometimes you don't have somebody to go to for that accountability as well. So you have to go to someone and say, hey, what should I have done here? Well, we need more late game situations. Okay. Man, we've got to get better out of a timeout. You know what I'm saying? Or, man, we've got to we've got to go deeper into our bench in the first half. Whatever those things may be to improve your program, I think film obviously can show that and tell that, but I also think those assistant coaches that are sitting to the right of you or to the left of you, you've got to trust and lean on them, because you got to know they've got your best interest the same way the players know that we have their best interest.
For sure, man. They kind of, I read an article, I think it was like talking about moving from that first chair as an assistant 18 inches over to the head coaching chair is a lot harder than just moving 18 inches than you think. That's you definitely covered all that for sure. Moving with the recruitment part of things. So I'm not even sure we can officially talk about it with the signing period or anything else, but you picked up a couple kids from Louisiana, and we talked with Brent Harris from Southwest Mississippi earlier on a previous episode. But for those guys that missed that episode, can you kind of talk about the rules on you can only have 3 out-of-state kids on your roster at a time?
Correct. And Coach Harris does a phenomenal job. And like you said, you're right. Going back, that move 18 inches, man, that's and I know a lot of coaches are excited for that opportunity, but it is definitely, and I'll be the first to admit, it's definitely a challenge, but it's a reward in the end. But in terms of recruiting, man, you're right. Our roster is made up of 15 young women, 12 are from Mississippi, and then those 3 out-of-staters has got to be, they got to be your game changers. Those kids have got to be your difference makers. There's 15 junior colleges in the state of Mississippi, so we're all kind of competing over the same kids from the north of the state and the Delta all the way down to the Gulf Coast, and Jackson, Meridian, et cetera. The basketball talent level in this state has improved drastically. I've even seen, on both sides of the ball, the men's side and the women's side, from playing in this league, and remembering, last year, for example, on the men's side in the South Division, there was 2 kids that transferred from LSU. And one signed with Tulsa and was their second best player, and one signed with Georgetown. So anytime usually, you wouldn't have seen that back when I was playing. You know what I'm saying, in the early 2000s. So, and then obviously, we've had some programs in our league that's had some success, and some teams that went on to play in ACC, SEC, and other power conferences as well. So the recruiting out of state, man, I think it helps from a proximity standpoint. Louisiana, Florida, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama, just those neighboring states are very important to touch on. But I think the biggest thing, Coach, that's really stuck out to me about Louisiana is it's close, number one, okay? So kids are able to get home. You know what I'm saying? This is the first time they're going to go away from home. They're going to sleep in a different bed. They're going to have a different voice. They're not going to walk down that hallway and have a home-cooked meal. They got to walk to the calf, and that college student athlete schedule is just so prime in a sense, to prepare these kids for the 4-year level. A lot of times basketball, I think, can be social, but man, when those student athletes get in the grind and they see, man, this is like a job, that test there. So I'm going to brag on Louisiana and say that the high school coaches and the AAU coaching is really big down there. You know what I'm saying? From the Battle of the Bayou to all the different events. And you got to think, you guys are so close to Texas, so how active you guys are, to play, and everybody wants to come to New Orleans. So that's probably the one biggest thing that stuck out to me about Louisiana is just how big y'all state is with AAU basketball, high school basketball. And you got team camps that are very popular down there and put on a great show. But I just think the basketball is a little bit advanced from the AAU circuit, and the involvement. Those kids are playing basketball at such a young age that when they get to high school, between your summer season and your AAU season, it's like another season. Does that make sense? Like your sophomore that's going to be a junior, that summer is so crucial for her development that really, when she's a junior, it's like she's a senior.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because of all the ball she's played. So that's something that I really respect about y'all state.
No doubt. And I mean, even to that, like side note, like we got biddy basketball and all that. I had kids that went biddy basketball, AAU. We did very little over the summer because of all that. But we had summer basketball, and then we turned around and did high school, and that was kind of like the first year. But to your point, it was an eighth grader, ninth grader, and they were playing above their grade level, so to say, when
Right.
compared to other high school students. But oh, where was I? Right. So we talked a lot about video, especially during like this madness of you can't. I mean, May we're shut down until May. We already lost April. We lost May. Probably losing any type of team camps in June. I would say it's over 50% chance that we lose July live period. So a lot of people are relating to film. Is there any advice you could give prospective student athlete coaches whenever they're creating these highlight films? A, what should they put on them? And B, how do they get them to you to, I guess, make an evaluation or get you to take that next step in the recruiting process?
No, that's a great point. And there again, you're continuing to think forward and help these student athletes. And that's awesome. They are blessed to have someone like yourself that's promoting this. I think the best way, obviously, is now with these smartphones is send them through email. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, we have a social media page. My assistant coach, Chelsea Black, does a phenomenal job of covering that for us. But I just think, send an email, sfletcher@prcc.edu, evaluation. I will joke and say this, though, and I do mean this. The one thing that I've noticed about every highlight film I've received thus far is I've never seen a kid miss a shot. And everything's a good pass. But maybe I'm a little bit more defensive minded, but man, I like to see more defensive clips. Just because I think you can tell by watching a young woman run if she's a good athlete. You know what I'm saying? And
No doubt.
Picking up, is she fast enough? Can she move her hips? What's her lateral quickness like? Can she sit down and guard? But I just think nowadays, everybody wants to score, but I just feel like we get bombarded with, clips, and then another thing too is, you'll get a clip and it'll be a kid that's a shooter. Well, that shot is such a slow release. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not knocking, but, so I just feel like sometimes that if that kid's a shooter, but she's also got some other intangibles to her game, that needs to be exposed as well. Not the slow release on the shot that may exclude her from that. We had a post player this year that she just signed with South Carolina State, and man, her soft touch around the rim, field goal percentage, you know what I'm saying, block shots, could rebound offensively and defensively. Those things, when we were getting her out of here, those were the things that we needed to expose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, kind of to your point, we were kind of clipping some film and stuff for one of my kids, and I was very adamant about she's a post player. So I got a big train going around. She's a post player. We were talking about, whenever you're playing at the next level, you got to be able to at least defend the pick and roll. So in JV games, what we did was she was guarding the freaking point guard for the team. And you was able to see her turn a defender 2 or 3 times, in a full court setting, even though she is a 6'1" post player, and that's kind of like people don't even understand or would not even consider putting that into a clip, or she's switching a pick and roll, guarding for 2 bounces, making a kid spin or something like that. Like all kinds of little things where at the end of the day, you're off the ball a whole lot more than you're on the ball. And like always see highlight films is on the ball.
Yeah, great point. That's there again, Coach. I mean that. That's that forward thinking that right there exposes your girl. You know what I'm saying, and gets her on the radar because everybody wants to see, like you said, if you can turn a kid 2 or 3 times before they get to the court, and you can really sit down and guard that is extremely valuable because a lot of kids now play with a cool jacket. The body language. Those things that are. Coaches, just won't offer a kid, you know what I'm saying, if they don't look coachable or that too cool for school and the body language is so negative.
Yeah, I like to call it Louisiana cool. We got a couple of Louisiana cool kids. And I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes down to you got hundreds of emails coming through, and you're combing through these films, and you only got maybe 1 or 2 spots left. Louisiana cool is not going to get you to the next level.
That's right. That's right. We got some Mississippi cool over here too now.
Oh man. Next part. So whenever you're, I guess, recruiting kids, we have D1 or bust mindset. There's a lot of questions I've been asking to kind of explain to everyone. Majority of our kids are, majority of our schools here are Division 1, NAI, stuff like that. We don't have that many junior colleges. So you guys have, I believe, 15. So it's a little more common over there. What are some misconceptions, especially when you're recruiting our state, Louisiana, whenever you're fighting through those challenges? What's some stuff that you run along?
Well, it's a great point. I tell you, the kids that we have brought on our campus from y'all state, one of the first things they acknowledge is, oh, wow, this is not like our community college system in Louisiana. And that's by no means knocking the Louisiana community college system. It's just, I think, like on-campus housing is, I don't know every school situation. Maybe Eunice has it. I'm not real sure, but I think Delgado and Baton Rouge, I think they have to live off campus. I know I've heard that, but like I said, we don't negative recruit here, so I really don't know it. But I've been told the cafeteria, the dorm setup, and probably the misconception about our campus, and I can only speak about Pearl Rivers, but we have a real spread out wide campus. You're talking about a couple hundred acres, and we've got faculty housing. Obviously, we have a beautiful $10 million facility that rivals many low to mid-major Division 1 facilities. We have our own weight room. We have a NBA-style locker room. We have our own film room. We have our own coach's office. Like, it is a really, really unbelievable setup. And, our campus in general, from, just our common buildings, and the expansions. Right now we're building a 3-story student-athlete dorm. So the one side will be, it rivals, it's right on the back side of the baseball field. So you'll have 3 stories will be men's athletics. The other 3-story dorm right there next to it will be 3 stories for female athletics and some other students in there. And, we just put down turf on our football field. So when you drive through campus, a lot of these parents will say, man, I didn't know y'all's play. It's like a 4-year college.
Yeah, no
and
doubt.
You know what I'm saying? So that's probably the biggest misconception. And then I think the other thing that our league in general, and I think Brent would tell you this as well as other coaches, we don't get the respect of for us to only have a limited number of spots for out-of-state players. Our league does not get the respect that it deserves nationally, because Kansas, Texas, Florida, those powerhouse leagues, so to speak, have been able to have the unlimited out-of-staters. Well, and in the past, whenever Mississippi or Region 23 would go out to the national tournament, they would lose the first game or whatever. Well, we've had some success from within our region to where we went out there and represented ourselves, and then tried to play a little bit more of a national schedule, to kind of garner some respect. You look at, for example, there was a player in our league that went to Arkansas, and had a phenomenal career, first team All SEC. You had another player that was a top 50 player coming out of high school, 5-star, went to Mississippi State and played in our league. So those small details that, are probably overshadowed. And then I think a lot of kids, they don't understand, but like you and I were talking a minute ago about video recruiting and things like that, there's so many kids now that get left out because if they didn't play with a big AAU program and they weren't at those big AAU tournaments, there's a chance they may not have been seen by a low major, mid-major. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying
100%. I wrote an article several months ago about like how important AAU is. I mean, it is what it is. Like, if you're not playing on that level, like, you're definitely behind the 8 ball, and you can definitely get overlooked 400% sure.
Absolutely. And then a lot of your athletes in Mississippi are multi-sport athletes. So not only do these girls play basketball, but they run track. so they're the best track and field. Now volleyball is really catching on in the state of Mississippi, so that's a growing sport as well. So these kids are missing out on those AAU weekends, which to a low major and a mid-major program with their budgets, for those coaches packets, they're going to go and try to hit as much and get the bang for their buck and cover 100 teams, at an event like that, where now the high school recruiting kind of suffers a little bit. You know what I'm saying? They didn't get a chance to see that kid with their high school program. So we had a young lady just finished up with us and just signed with McNeese State. And, coming out of high school, she didn't have any Division I offers. She came here. She led us in scoring both years, had 6 to 8 offers from Division I and is going to play at McNeese. So, a lot of times junior college can benefit your help with recruiting if you didn't get the chance to play with a top AAU organization or to be on the circuit and to be exposed.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's there for, and it's not even about the misconception, I guess, is it's all about bad grades, right? It's about being under-recruited. It's about having an opportunity and, putting the best foot forward. Like, all right, they overlooked me, but, hey, I'm going to go to this team. I'm going to lead the team in scoring, and I'm gonna be that dude, and then everyone's going to come, like you said. So she goes from 0 to 6 offers because she put her best foot forward and she proved it on the court. Wasn't worried about everything else.
Great point. You just touched on something about the misconception about bad grades. You're exactly right. And another thing, I'm going to change sports just for 1 second. We'll get right back to basketball. But look at a baseball prospect, okay? We got a young man right here that went to Germantown High School in Madison, Mississippi, okay? Came here, all right, signed with Auburn, all right? Hadn't even played his first year now. So he was a freshman this year. Hasn't even played his freshman year because the season got canceled, all right? Was projected to get drafted in the top 8 rounds, all right? So you're talking about signing a multi-million-dollar contract to go play professional baseball from junior college, because had he went Division I, he would have to stay for 3 years. But the fact that he was able to come here for 1 year or 2 years and out of high school, nobody really recruited him because he got injured. So he comes here, plays, shortstop. He signs with Auburn, visits Texas A&M, and is possibly about to get drafted and have $1 million+ on the table to go sign, so that's, which I know that's another sport, but my point is junior college, like you said, is a definitely, there is some misconception for sure. And like you said, I think every kid that goes junior college has a story too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt.
Because you travel a little different, it's, your work ethic, man, is when you go junior college, your work ethic will really propel you to the next level. But if you don't work hard, somebody else will pass you up, whether it's a high school kid or a Division I transfer. So that's the best thing about the junior college system is if you're a grinder, man, and you went under the radar, when you go to junior college, you bust your butt, man. And see, I'll say this, and then we'll move on. I feel like when kids sign in their senior year, that is simply a payback for all the sacrifice that they made up to their senior year. Now, if you want to see a kid have true college success, his or her college success will be based off of how hard they work during their college career. Because when you're 14, coach, you may not have a car. You may not have access to a gym. But now you're on a college campus, so you dribbled in your driveway or you shot in the grass. You know what I'm saying? Or you went to the church and played, or you played at the park. But there again, when you sign that college scholarship, even though it may have been junior college, that paid you back for all those sacrifices that you made at a young age. Now, when you get to college and you have the weight room, you have the gym access, you have the car, your own campus, what's your excuse now? So it pays you back for your work ethic. Your college career will be a reflection of your work ethic in college.
Yeah, I love that. And, coaching at the low major level, whenever kids dream and they aspire to play Division I, I coached there for 5 years. We had a lot of kids that just dreamed and dreamed and dreamed. And once they reached that dream, like you said, they just shut it down, never really reached their potential that we saw. But then on the flip side, that you had kids that were maybe a little upset that we were their only offer, and then they just worked that much harder. I mean, we had a kid, we were her only Division I offer, and she ended up being the Louisiana Player of the Year the first time in 20 years, not from LSU and Tulane, So it's like once you get there, you clean slate, man. Start all over, like you said. That's a great point.
Yes, sir.
Last thing I want to touch with you, man. The recruiting process. I had Coach Justin from Millsaps on, and we talked a little bit about the recruiting process and dissecting and figuring out where you're at on someone's board. So just because I got a letter, just because I got an email, just because I got a text or someone called my coach doesn't necessarily mean I'm high up on their board. Most schools have a board. They have the kids that they're trying to get on the top end, and then it's like another tier and another tier and another tier. How do you determine what tier you're on, and how do you decipher through all that madness?
I think the first thing is like you said, there is a level of interest versus a level of commitment. I think it engages with our level of interest, and then we see if that student athlete has some interest back. And based off of that interest is how farther we go with the process. You can go and visit with a kid, and if a kid looks down on you or doesn't feel, that they're, capable of coming to your school, or they may be looking for something else, then, you don't want to spin your wheels and spend a lot of time on that. One thing I think we do a good job of here is we try to, if possible, try to identify these kids from their sophomore to junior years and watch the growth from their junior to senior years. And, something that I think we're real big on here, I would rather have a player that had unbelievable body language, that played hard, that was coachable, looked their coach in the eyes, versus a kid that was a talented player, but when the coach subbed them and the kid stood up on the bench, she didn't touch everybody's hands and goes down to the end and pouts, whether it's a breather sub, a foul sub situation, or whatever. Those bad habits, man, I just feel like can destroy what you're really trying to build. You know what I'm saying? So I read a book, What Drives Winning. I'm sure you've heard of that, Brett Ledbetter. And, man, what a phenomenal book. And it just talked about, the process of being a great teammate and just the separation. So I don't know. I mean, I just feel like if you can get on those kids at an early age, and then I think a lot of times you have to set the expectations, therefore they'll meet it, and I think sometimes in recruiting, because there's so many people recruiting, you want those kids to like you, so you're willing to really not show them who you really are, where I think we're very clear, hey, we're going to coach you hard. We're going to push you every single day to meet your potential. So I need you to bring that every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be days you don't like it. There's going to be days you question the process. But I want you to know that on the front end. I think you also have to express that to the parents, because when that kid does call home and say, man, coach is on us, man, coach is running, coach is grinding. You know what I'm saying? Well, that parent's got to say, yeah, but you're getting better. As long as you're not being mistreated, as long as, he told you that on the front end. You're going to go to class. You're going to get a degree. We're not going to use you for your athletic ability. You will graduate, and you'll have a chance to play basketball after there if you trust and believe every day. Because a lot of these kids, man, they've just never been pushed and challenged, and they really don't know what their full potential is because they've been the best player. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something that we identify. We don't hold back when we recruit and tell them straight up from day one, we're going to grind and we're going to get after it. And to some kids, that's not for them, but the ones that came here, and especially, we've been very blessed to coach some special young women. And we've made a lot of growth in 5 years and sent girls on to play at the Division I level as well as the 4-year level. And I think that there's a certain reason for that. And like I said, it's not me, man. It's great assistant coaches, the young women buying in each and every day, and then having great support from the parents.
Love it, man. Coach, again, appreciate your time. Is there any way that the girls can kind of follow you on Facebook, Twitter, social media, anything where they can kind of keep up with you along the way if they got any questions?
Absolutely. Our Twitter is @PearlRiverWBB. And like I said, Coach Blatt does a phenomenal job. I have a Twitter. It's @Coach Fletch, PRCC. The only thing is I need to get back on there, and this is kind of, I know I need to be more active, but at FCA in the fall in October, our FCA leader, Kendall Lumpkins, just kind of challenged us about taking a sabbatical, from social media through the remainder of the year. And I kind of pushed it through the season, just to not be, for me, just not to be distracted, to kind of make sure I was focused on the right things and keeping the main thing. So, but I do have one. It's been a while since I've been active, but I do need to get back on there. So, this may push me in that direction, but yeah, anytime. And then obviously an email, but love to answer any questions any of the student athletes may have. And there again, Coach, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, man, for doing this, not only for our school and our program, but for our state, for Region 23, but most importantly, these young student athletes that are trying to be recruited, as well as their parents, from educating them. This is something that needs to be done. You're ahead of the curve, man. So thank you so much. You don't know how much you're helping young kids.
No doubt, man. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate all the love from you guys. Again, if you need anything from me, man, I wish you guys nothing but best in the future. For everyone that is watching us, guys, thanks for watching us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we look forward to bringing some more college coaches interviews to you guys.